Now we're going to go through the tools we use to get there. So essential number one is movement with attention. And attention to what? Attention to what you feel as you move and act. So if exercise alone or movement by itself were sufficient for us to do well and be pain-free, we'd all be doing quite well. Unfortunately, that's not the case. And oftentimes, it's even the opposite. We get injured doing sports and doing exercises and doing yoga, things like this. When we're doing movement without attention, it drives in our existing patterns more deeply. We're not providing the brain with more information. So trying harder, doing repetitions, putting in your earbuds when you exercise. These are all great examples of doing movement without attention. Just going to the driving range and swatting balls without an eye towards error correction is not going to cut it. Just asking stroke patients to lift their arm without paying attention is the same thing. So it's really simple, but when you bring attention to what you feel as you move and act, it allows for positive brain changes. Research, again, by Michael Merzenich, who I just quoted there, shows that movement without attention offers no observable increase in the density of the mapping of the brain in the area that's moving, and movement with attention shows very rapid changes. So when we tell people to do exercises or to swallow or make sounds without attention to what they feel as they do it, we're pulling them out of the process, actually, and getting them more focused on the outcome. If we instead take the approach of bringing their attention and their intelligence into the process so that they can start to make distinctions about their actions, they can start to differentiate those actions into a new way of acting. So movement with attention isn't about just giving instructions like stand this way or sit this way and closing doors. It's about actually opening up options and saying, what do you feel in your pelvis or your chest or your back as you attempt to lift your arm? To keep going with that example. We can even get them to pay attention to the effort level they have when they're attempting to lift their arm. Or there's many ways we could implement movement with attention. Actually, I had a kid come see me recently. The mother was telling me she was getting a sore wrist when she's chopping vegetables, right, for supper. And so I said, well, next time you do it, I'm going to, if you're willing to do this, pay attention to what you do. Just observe yourself. Where are you moving when you're chopping the vegetables? And then start to bring in more parts of yourself. Bring your shoulder in. Notice if you're weight shifting. Shift your weight. Bring the rest of your body into the process of cutting the vegetables. She comes back the next lesson. She tells me, you know what? I started having pain again. I was chopping the vegetables. I remembered what you said. I was only moving like from my elbow down. She said I started bringing more of myself into it. Pain was gone completely. So it can be that simple. I didn't even have to work with her. I just gave her some instruction. Here's a video of Jonathan, 21 months old, autism, no eye contact, nonverbal, does not play with other children, arches violently and involuntarily. Great example of movement with attention.
הוא כבר עשו תרפיה או עוד לא? לא. אז הוא מגיב ככה? אני עוד בעיר.
So she's speaking Hebrew with him.
אתה בא לעבודה או אתה עובד עבור מישהו?
ביוניון סקול. פרנלי.
אני חושבת שאני מכירה, אני יודעת שאני מכירה. היה לך פעם בלרשת שלך? כן. כך, רגע, עכשיו יש לך עוד אחת פה, בוא אני אראה לך. יש פה, ויש פה גרב, אני אוריד את הגרב, ואני שמה את הגרב פה, פה, אתה רואה? שמתי פה את הגרב, יפה, מאוד. תעשי זה, רגל שלך, כף רגל. יש יש לי אליך שאלה. יש לי אליך שאלה. יש לי אליך שאלה. יש לי אליך שאלה.
After 6 sessions with the Otner team, Jonathan was eating and sleeping better, had great eye contact, if you didn't notice it already, just 15 minutes in. He was saying words, responding to his name, playing with other kids, and he was able to fight with his brother, which I guess was a big deal for the mother. So you can see she was joining him. She was using her hands to make sense of his movements as he was arching. She was just highlighting things for him. She wasn't trying to stop him or do anything. She was just with him. And that alone brought his attention into the process, and it made a huge change really quickly. Again, I have research listed to support the essentials that I'm going through. I'll have them listed on my website for your access at bimt.ca. The next essential is slow. When we go fast, we can only do what we already know. Getting to be able to go fast eventually is really good and really important. But if we go fast too early on, then we default to what we already know to do. We take the pieces of the duck that we have now and we try to force fit them. So if we have a habit that we like say an athlete that's doing something that the way they want to do it, then to gradually increase the speed and the repetitions is perfect. But if we're not where we want to be, speed and repetition is just going to cause more noise in the system. It's not going to bring more clarity. We don't do something completely new when we go really fast, and it limits our ability to notice important details that could actually lead us to higher skill. So slow is a very powerful tool. Most of the time, just slowing down the action creates a transformation. It reduces our risk of failing. And it gets us out of our automatic mode in our movements, in our speech, our thoughts, our social interactions, and allows us to experience life at a much more profound level. Again, the research I'll have on my website. The third essential is subtlety. So the reduction of effort, force, and the intensity of the stimulus increases our sensitivity and our ability to perceive differences. So there's something called the Weber-Fechner law. Basically, the more intensity there is to the stimulation, the more added stimulation we need in order to notice a change. So if we go out into the full sunlight and we shine a flashlight, you're not really going to notice. In this room, you'll notice it. If we bring the lights up too much in this room, you're not going to see the screen. If we bring them down, it's more obvious. You can see it. So we want to lower the intensity, actually, for people to notice differences. And it applies on all levels of processing, auditory, sensory, motor. If you provide more noise to a noisy brain, you're just going to get a more noisy brain. So we want to bring down the noise. Many people associate increased effort with success. And when you use too much effort, whether you've had a stroke or not, it leads to an overactive brain that produces more noise, which will just result in inefficient action. So in order to grow and learn, the brain needs the exact opposite. It needs less force. And by reducing the force with we move and think, we reduce the noise and we increase our sensitivity. And then we can combine the essentials. So when we pay attention to what we do and what we feel as we move, when we go slow, when we reduce our efforts, all those things together complement each other so that we can notice more and more differences. So variation. Variations are the intentional introduction of differences. When we avoid making mistakes or finding a variety of ways to do a task, we're not really facing up to the fundamental science of what the brain really needs to correct itself, which is information. It's more of a superficial approach. We need to provide an approach that encompasses the underlying operations of the brain to help it enable to recover. So instead of pounding on things over and over, it's better to use variety to get there. It's richer to be able to set up the conditions in which the brain can solve the task from many different directions. In fact, that's what we want to do. We want to be able to solve the same task from many different ways. If I had to only go through the Denver airport to get to my hot holiday, I'm probably not going to make it there every time I want to go. We need to be able to reroute and take a different path to solve our problem. Anybody who's been through Denver and not made it through knows what I'm talking about. So my training with Anat taught me to see that there isn't a right way to do something. There's not a right way to jump or stand or etc., anything. We as human beings have an enormous amount of degrees of freedom in any one action. So if you harp on one movement, like movement A, and then it's not likely to improve, but if you do A, B, C, you come back to A, it will oftentimes have drastically improved. Just like in the short little TML, you may have noticed some differences. I mean, it's only 2 or 3 minutes. We did a variety of things to come back and notice the changes. Okay. Now, we have Andy, age 9. Global developmental delays. He's on the autism spectrum. Attention deficit disorder. Poor fine motor skills. Unable to write, spell, or read. His teachers, when he failed to write between 2 lines, they asked him to write letters inside boxes, yielding more failure and ultimately the refusal to write at all. Smart kid, actually.
So, I am writing a letter, and you tell me what letter did I write?
A.
Exactly. Now, I don't want you to write a good A. I want you to write a really bad A. Write an A that is really bad. Show me. What kind of bad A can you make?
Probably if I did this.
I wouldn't know that's an A. Now do another bad A for me. So it's kind of like an A. Well, if you just do a line, then it's nothing. So it still has to have some of the parts of the A, but make it bad. Oh, it's so hard to do a bad A. How about I do... Is this a bad A?
No, that's good.
Why is it good?
Because you did all the parts.
You know, if you look at it this direction, it's bad. But I realize, but if you look at it this direction, it's good. I thought I did a bad A. You see, if you look at it in this direction, it does look like an A. You can write any letter you want. I'll have to guess what letter it is. And I'm going to give you a box inside in which to do the letter, but you make sure to not keep the letter in the box.
What?
Yes. But you have to write the letter close enough so I can guess what it is, okay?
Okay.
But do not keep it in the box.
Okay. How come not the box?
Because that's the game. You know, the game you played with Mom a lot is keep the letter in the box. Now we're saying do not keep the whole letter in the box. Just a part of the letter in the box. So, I'm going to give you a box. And I want the letter outside the box. The box is going to be different sizes at different times. Don't tell me which letter. Write it, but make sure it doesn't fit into the box. That's the box. This looks like a switched, it looks like a D. Is this a D? Did you mean to do a D?
Yeah.
Is that what you meant to do?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, on the plane ride home, Andy spontaneously spent 2 hours writing letters between the 2 lines. Look how engaged he was also, by the way, and intentionally making mistakes. You see, he pointed out the good A. If you can do a bad A, you have to know what a good one is. So it's really genius on her part, actually, working with him in that fashion. Flexible goals. Goals are really important for us as practitioners and for our clients too, or their parents if it's a child. People usually know where they want to go, and this is great, but most people approach goals too rigidly and they end up putting on their blinders. With flexible goals, as a practitioner and as the client, you have to look to kind of throw your goal out into the future and then immerse yourself in the process, approaching it knowing that there's going to be tangents you go off on. So embracing all the missteps and reroutes is really important for creating more options and more information for your brain that will help lead you to your goal, just like in the video. For me, I can say flexible goals actually is something that definitely helped like reduce my anxiety instead of having to get to an outcome with the child so quickly. And it increases my creativity when I'm working. And it's resulted for me in greater success. And this is true for both the client and the practitioner. When there isn't such a focus on the specific outcome and they draw them into the process, they get more engaged like Andy was. So we have an enormous amount of possible ways to reach our goals, but if we narrow it down so that we have to get the outcome now, very often we fall short because the richness of the process that is required to get there is denied. Here we have Jason, 5 years old, undiagnosed developmental delays, issues with fine and gross motor skills, postural control, and visual coordination. He has extreme anxiety even with the simplest activities of daily living.
No. Well, you hold it, sweetheart. You take it in your hands and drink.
What might spill?
If it spills, we'll wipe it. That's not a big deal. I'm sure you can do it. Here, we'll hold it together. Here, I'll just make sure nothing bad happens. Here we go. You're okay. Oh. You see, this is not that he can't hold it, that he has anticipatory failure. Now, this has no. Oh, this has some water. I spilled water. Was that funny or what? Yeah. Now, sit up. I thought it was dry. Now it really doesn't have water anymore. Okay? Can you hold it? Now, can you hold it with the other hand? Other hand. Can you hold it with both hands? Now, can you hold it hard so it starts squishing? Now, do you think that it's about to fall down? No. Is it falling down? Now hold it and don't let me make it go out of your hand. Squeeze it so I can't take it out. You see how strong you are, sweetheart? You see how strong you are? So now, I'm going to do something. It's okay.
No, that's good.
That's just very little. You see how little I put here? Now, I am going to put even a little less. And I want you to spill it.
You want me to?
Yes, right here. Not to me. Perfect. And you know what I want you to do?
I
want you to dry it. You're going to do it again. I want you to dry it. Dry it. Come on, you know how you dry? You put like this and you squeeze. Come on, squeeze, dry. Yeah, that was fun, huh? Do you have paper towels at home? Do you have paper towels in the kitchen? Do you know? Yes. So if you spilled water, let's say in your room, what would you do then? Look at me, sweetie. What will you do?
Clean it up.
How will you clean it up?
With paper towel.
That's right. There you go. You see how you move from the past into the future? This is a lesson for your dad more than for you. Yeah.
So after 1 week, he began playing with children and held ice cream for the first time. You saw how he couldn't even hold the water. This is pretty amazing how she weaved that all together, and that is on her part flexible goals and actually helping him to have flexible goals. She's quite good at these things. Now, enthusiasm. What could enthusiasm have to do with getting your brain to do its job better? Enthusiasm is something that's self-generated. It's really a quiet thing, and it's a skill, again, we can develop. And it really tells your brain what's important to it and amplifies whatever that is, making it stand out. So the brain really only changes when something matters to it. It won't permit change unless that thing matters to it. So bringing meaning into the rehabilitation process is important. But if the brain is smart enough not to change a thing if it doesn't matter to it, it's really important for us to exercise our ability to be enthusiastic about changes that we see and experience. So we tend to think in ABM there's no big or small changes, it's just change. And if we observe a change in our client, it can be seen as a response or a sign that the process is in play and that they're perceiving differences now in what they're doing. And it's really important to note that enthusiasm is different than excitement. When a child does something new for the first time, and Wyatt talked about that in the Nash video, and we cheer and clap, it pulls their focus. And that's excitement. That's not enthusiasm. That's us outwardly expressing our excitement. And we actually pull them out of their experience and divert their attention toward us. So it not only shifts their attention to us instead of what they're doing, but it also gets them focused on the outcome and not on the process. The learning switch. This is a great concept. Again, Anat tries to make this accessible for everyone. That's what I really love about her work. You're either in a learning mode or you're not. If a person's tired or a child's scared or not feeling safe, then I'm not going to introduce anything new in that session with them. They just won't learn. Repetitions, drilling, habitual patterns of thought, habitual exercise routines, habitual emotional responses. These all tend to turn the learning switch way off. So we have to create the conditions for learning to occur. And for the best outcomes, the learning switch needs to be on. Doing something that's interesting and meaningful to the person we're working with is a great place to start. Once we have a person that's engaged in the process and at the ready to learn, they'll begin to perceive the differences in their own actions. And this is where growth, change, and new possibilities live for them. Here's another example of the learning switch. Quincy, 2 years old, Pitt-Hopkins syndrome, genetic disorder, developmental delays, seizures. She moves but cannot sit unsupported without falling.
Boom! And let's go again. Ah, pa 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 pa. Boom! And again. Ah, pa 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 pa. Ba 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 boom! Yeah. Come over. No, not you. Her. Come over. Yeah. Come over. Come over. Come over. Come over. Come over. And go back. Go back. That is called back. Over. Back. That's right. Now, here, 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 and now this. That's right, this, this, this. You will go somewhere else. This. Hi. You want to come up? Okay. You come up, that's right. And now you work with her with this kind of quality.
So after this lesson, she was more stable, using her back better, sitting taller and with better balance. What's important about that video, did you see how engaged she was? She was really there the whole time. And that's really the look of somebody that's perceiving differences versus doing reps. You see me at the gym, it won't look like that. Imagination, we're on number 8. The brain doesn't know the difference between imagining and reality. It's really another skill we can develop. Think about phobias. It's a perfect example. Everything is born out of nothing, like everything, this hospital, medicine. It comes from imagination. It comes from the creative process. And this is a place where we can come up with solutions to problems we're facing. We do it all the time. You know, you've had a situation that you went over in your head because it was maybe a situation at work, a home project you were working on that you had to figure out a way to do it. You did it in your head. We do it all the time, and it can be used in a rehabilitation setting as well, very easily. It's widely used in athletics. There have been numerous studies to show how athletes can use their imagination to improve their performance. And in fact, there's studies that have shown it's as effective at times or more effective than actually doing the task. Number 9, awareness. Again, important to note a difference between attention and awareness. So we can have kids watching a movie in a theater, and they're like, inside the movie, and they're yelling at the actors, and they're going, don't go in there, he's behind you, and they're up in their chair. They're really paying attention to the movie, but they have no awareness that they're up and yelling, and they're pointing, and they're doing this thing. Awareness is a whole different level. It's self-observation, and it's that you know that you know. You know that you're doing something. If you've ever been in a discussion with somebody and they're raising their voice and you tell them, you're yelling at me, and they go, I'm not yelling at you, they're not aware of the fact that they're yelling at you. They're paying attention to the conversation, but they're not aware. So when we bring awareness to changes, and by the way, I can be aware of this room, I can be aware of this buzzing sound that I hear with the speakers, I can be aware, we can expand that, and I can be aware of my own breathing right now as I'm speaking. It's a function that it's limitless. So when we bring awareness to changes that occur, it can have an enormous impact. It's kind of like, we think of it as like the glue of the brain. So I'd encourage you to do reps, or not do reps, but use your awareness rather. Here's a good example of this. Sawyer, age 13, severe autism, high anxiety, talks, but it's mostly random and shocking words. You'll see his awareness change in this video.
Oh! So
This is
here.
what I call the getting gay room. No, that was a bad joke.
Well, I will try to understand it.
The joke is that a lot of gay men wear a whole bunch of colors. I don't like this. I hate this.
You hate this?
I don't like it.
Slide up a little bit more towards me and tell me.
I kind of like the part where you used tissue to cure a girl's brain disease.
Now, let me ask you. I need you to tell me everything you hate. So do you hate when I touch your shoulder?
Communists. I hate communists.
Okay. But do you hate it when I touch your shoulder?
I don't know.
Do you hate it when I touch this shoulder? Perhaps. Who knows?
No, I did. Well,
let's find something that I do.
the Westboro Baptist Church.
Yeah, well, that's out there. I'm talking about you and me. And now, do it again. And do it again slowly. Roll the pelvis. Lift the right side. And at the same time, push the belly out. You're holding the belly. And see if the head can arch under. There you go. Come back. Come back. Straighten the leg. Straighten the leg. Excellent. And now, put the head in the middle. This is. And now, let me do it. Let me do it. And let's see. You see, it became a lot easier.
Whoa! How the hell did you do that?
We needed to change something in your brain. You needed to feel a few things, and then
That
your brain knew how to do it. Don't talk. You don't know what you're talking about.
Then it's harder with the.
No, it's not. Now it's easy with both of them. Now it's easy with both
You
of them.
made me more flexible.
Yes, I did. You made yourself more flexible because you gave me a chance to work with you.
So you can see how he changed. He was all over the place, and then he was much more organized in that last lesson with his thinking. So those are the 9 essentials. At this point, I'd like to introduce Tessa David. First, I'm going to show a short video, and then we'll conclude with question and answers after that. We got off to a late start, so hopefully we have enough time. Tessa David is a former NFL cheerleader. She was with the Indianapolis Colts. She was actually trying out for the Dallas Cowboys when she had her stroke. And I won't get into all the details there. The video will cover that. She's come here today from Los Angeles, actually. We're really happy to have her. I met her at her first visit to the Anat Baniel Method Center. I ended up actually being able to give her a lesson while I was there. And when I was debriefed on Tessa, I was told that she came to the center 3 weeks ago. She had a cane. She had limited speech, very limited speech, and she was walking with an ankle-foot orthotic. When I went out into the waiting area to meet her, she was carrying on a conversation. She was wearing a chunky heel. She had no cane, no AFO, and very little tone in her arm. She walked into the room. We did the lesson. It was unbelievable, actually. I went on Facebook and I checked out because I figured she's a cheerleader. She'll have a public Facebook page. And she had a video 3.5, 4 weeks ago from the date that I worked with her, walking with her cane and her AFO, high tone in the arm, and very limited speech. It was shocking. So at this time, I'll show her video.
Hi, my name's Tessa David, and this is my story. On December 1st, 2014, I had a massive stroke. I was showering for work, and I started going dizzy, and my arm went numb. I got it out of the shower, and my leg started to go numb on me, and I had intense pain in my head. It like knives sticking in it. I was so scared. I didn't know what to do. I crawled to my room, to my bed, and I passed out. For almost 2 days, I was trapped in my bed. I felt vulnerable and I didn't know what was going on. Scared. I was really scared. Never then thought in my life that I was having a stroke. I woke up in the hospital. I couldn't walk, talk, move my right arm or my right leg. I was very limited in my movement. Once I was discharged from ICU, I started therapy. PT and OT helped me so much and got me an AFO. They were afraid of my knee injury and my foot turning in. 2 hours per day, every day.
There you go. Yes, this is what I want right here.
They pushed me and I would be exhausted.
Oh, there it is. Good.
My arm would contract after that. It would be so tense after that. And I had a horrible ringing in my ear. I met Jill Bolte-Taylor at the hospital, and she said, "Stop what you're doing and go see Anat Baniel." I thought that Anat Baniel was a country or something. I didn't know what it was.
Sweetheart, transition from here to here. So
My dad took me, and 120 people were in it, and I was scared.
You're getting a spasm? It's okay, honey. It's okay. Take a breath. Take a breath.
Anat had a connection to my body.
Is this better?
She knew what was going on with my brain.
We've done a lot in one time.
She knew everything was connected in my body, and she got done, and I went to dinner with my dad, and it stopped ringing in my ear. I was so excited. I knew I had to continue with her.
That's it. Can you feel that the hand arrived here?
Yes.
Can you feel the contact here?
Yes.
You feel that? Pushing your belly out. That's it.
Let's pick a note. Excellent. Here we go. Don't dear, our female dear,
Hi, Sylvia, help me get my heel to the ground. It's the first time I've done it since my stroke.
Fantastic.
I just got done 3 weeks of intensive training at Anat Baniel Studios, speaking and walking. I got my heel down and my arms moving. I felt my hand burning. It's getting better. I'm doing the tibia toes. I'm walking better up and down stairs. Anat helped me improve with my mobility and my speech. I can't move drive. Hi, I'm at Anat Baniel's training today, and I'm so scared and I'm excited and I can't wait for the training to start. I don't know where I'd be if it wasn't for Anat's training. I'm truly grateful. I want to give back so much. I want to get better every day and help others in life.
Perfect. Okay, Tessa's going to come up. Please welcome Tessa. And at this point, we're just going to open it up for question and answer. I think we have a few minutes. We have 20 minutes for any questions anybody has. I'll have to moderate between Videoland and here. Anybody in this room have a question that they're interested in asking?
Hi, I'm Tessa. The history fact. Why did you have like the likelihood for you to have a stroke? The likelihood of a stroke. Like I wasn't like the family members. Like no family members of a stroke. Like my grandma or grandpa didn't have a stroke. I wasn't obese, and I didn't do drugs or tobacco. I didn't have high cholesterol. I worked out every day. I was a spin instructor. I ate healthy. Yeah, I was like fit. Yeah.
And what did they tell you it was? Did they think they knew?
Like it was an unknown factor. Yes.
So they didn't know why you had a stroke is what you're saying.
Yeah.
And if Ali, if you can speak in so they know. If Ali's going to just be here to facilitate if need be. Yeah.
I'm nervous.
Okay, so anybody on the video conference have a question for Tessa or for myself? Okay, there's a question in the audience here, right here.
Yeah.
Yep.
So for both, Dan, for any of your patients and for Tessa, what was the reaction to your PT and OT after you saw Anat, and sort of did that adjust any additional OT work and PT work that you did with them? Did that sort of change their perception?
I didn't see an OT after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And a PT also? No?
No.
Okay. You went with ABM.
Yeah. I saw a speech person, like, for a while after that. My speech was, like, drastically poor.
Okay. Somebody else had a question up here, right here in the black. Okay. Speak up a little.
And we'll repeat the question. Can you say that one more time?
Yes. My arm.
She asked, just for people on video, if she was right-handed.
Yes.
Right? And how that.
Yes. I was right-handed before my stroke, and my arm is getting better. I can move it more better.
But you do everything with one hand.
Yes. I still, on my left hand, I curled my hair with my left hand, and I put on my makeup with my left hand, and I do everything. I write my notes with my left hand. I'll get it back. Again.
There's another person up somewhere in the audience here. Okay. Okay. So just give me, you're saying you're curious about the barriers that you'd come up against or when trying to apply these brain plasticity-based principles? What do you mean, like specifically? Can you give me anything specific? So, and you're an OT or a PT or physiatrist? So, yeah, okay, yeah, you guys are overworked for sure. You can bring in any of these essentials into what you're already doing. You don't even have to actually do anything different in the content. But in the process of working with your clients, you could have the process where you slow it down more, where you bring attention to other areas of their body as they move and to what they feel as they do it, and bring them more into that internal experience. Again, just bringing attention to it, and that guides you already. Slow pretty much falls into place if you're paying attention. And then you know what you want to do, so you can provide the variations. So if it's, you want somebody to begin leaning on their arm, right, on their hand, let's say, a stroke, you could start with their elbow. You could start in different positions. I mean, there's so many ways. But you want to start where it's accessible for that person, of course, and then make small progressions. When I coach my kids soccer and hockey, I don't get them doing things that I would get, like, these are like 7 and 8 year olds. I wouldn't get them doing something that a 12-year-old can even do. I start where it's appropriate for their skill level, and then we branch out from there. And I wouldn't know how to approach it otherwise, because this is really how we all start out and how we all develop and how we all continue. Does that answer the question? Perfect.
And imagine it. Like, Anat told me to imagine that with my right arm, and imagine that on my videos. Like, imagine that.
Yeah, so a lot of the things that she would get her to go through during her lessons that she couldn't do with her right arm, she would imagine them, and then she would see improvement and more function out of the arm by just imagining it, like in her mind, but not doing the movement.
Yeah, that's, again, it's one of those elusive essentials. There's a lot of concepts there, like the learning switch or enthusiasm, and you might wonder, like, how do I bring that in? With the imagination, it's really easy, especially, say, with Tessa, she has full function on her left side, so we can do movements on her left side and then have her do what she can do on the right easily and imagine the rest. The brain will start to pull pieces again from those experiences, just like the duck, right? Yeah. And build a better duck, essentially, right? So, but to get them to try and do it without being able to do it is just going to get that pattern drilled in deeper. Another question?
It's a question for Tessa. Your improvements in the video are spectacular. And how linear would you say that was? I know you're undergoing intensive therapy.
Yeah.
Did you see improvement really quickly? And then was that sustained or did it drop down? Is there still improvement that is happening? Is it still quite as quick?
The doctor said over 6 months it would plateau. I've seen improvements over the past couple of years.
2 years.
Yeah.
It's been almost 2 years.
2 years. About 2 years. Vast improvements. I couldn't speak. I stood orange.
That was your word? Orange?
Yeah. Anat said, spend 4 months out there and you'll see drastic improvements out there. And I spent 4 months out there and I saw drastic improvements. I spoke better and I got rid of my lint and I still see it. I'm
Still changing.
Yeah, still changing. And my arm isn't broken. It's turned off. Unplugged. It is unplugged. It is unplugged. It needs to be turned on again.
Reconnect.
Yeah. Yeah. A different connection to my brain, and I'll come back.
Yeah, and just on that point, I mean, when we experience a progression in skill, again, as an athlete, I see this with the kids I work with all the time. So even in a typical situation, we'll see them do something crazy in a game. There's no way they can reproduce somewhere else consistently, but eventually over time, right? As they have more experiences and they can draw from those, they continue to build. And to be perfectly honest too, we all have our sort of off days, right? It's easy to have a brain that can't make sense out of the nonsense. It's Friday night. Anybody goes out, has a couple drinks, this is going to happen. So we have our times where our brain is actually processing information better and or worse. So there is going to be up and downs. Tessa's saying over the long haul, it's going up.
Yes, improving, and it's improving a lot. Over the past 2 years, it's improving a lot. Mm-hmm. I would say. I did 3 months with PT, and it was
That's a good word. But
yeah. Yes. Starting ABM, I've seen drastic improvements. Yeah. And my ear, what was it? My ear?
Tinnitus. You're ringing in your ear?
She had ringing in her ear. I don't know. Is it tinnitus or tinnitus?
Tinnitus.
Yeah. Either way. That's what she.
Yeah.
That's what she had, and yeah. So you want to talk about? Yeah. After Anat worked on me for the first time, she worked on my ribs. They were sore. They were sore, and I came back, and I didn't have any ringing in my ear, and I had to stay with her. I had to stay with her.
Mm-hmm. Okay, there's another question actually up here first in the blue, green, blue.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Mm.
I'll repeat it for the people.
Okay.
I'm just going to repeat the question for the people watching. The question is about after an injury, a lot of our patients experience depression. So how do we use the essentials and get around that or work with the depression aspect? And then how soon is it appropriate to start using this intervention? Is it right immediately after the injury, or do you wait a certain period?
Well, obviously, depending on the depression level, they should be seeking medical attention there. I'd be referring them out to somebody in the health region or somewhere. But oftentimes, what I see is as we engage people and bring them into the process, that tends to start to change. It just tends to start to change. Once they experience change, it usually kind of lifts that to some degree. But, of course, we need to seek medical attention when we need it. As soon as the event occurs, you could start implementing these principles. The stats are 15% of the time that somebody's in a hospital after a stroke is the time they spend moving. 85% of the time they're in their bed. It's like a hotel. And I know it's manpower and it's difficult that way, right? But there's research coming out of Johns Hopkins University where they're really looking into that, and they've found that beginning immediately leads closer to full recovery than even waiting like a 7-day period. They took mice that had a stroke. They waited 7 days to do the rehab, and they didn't fully recover. They took in another group, and it started immediately, and there was what he referred to as full recovery in this research that I've read. The interesting thing was he took the first group that had the stroke and didn't recover. He gave them another stroke, started the treatment immediately, and they went closer to full recovery. So the sooner the better is pretty much always applies. I think what it is pacing is super important in the beginning, and you guys would know that better than me because I'm not in the hospital, but pacing, and that might be something Tessa could speak to.
Yeah, I was on, when I was out there, I was on medicine, antidepressant medicine when I first went there, out to Anat's,
Center?
Yeah.
Center?
Yeah. Out to Anat's center. I was depressed. I 2 months and I got off it. I wasn't depressed anymore, and I don't know what it was. It changed my brain. I don't know.
They did short lessons with you at first. How short were your lesson minutes? Okay, don't worry about it.
That actually just highlights again one of the things I talked about, focusing on outcomes versus process. We have very little control over outcomes, but we have incredible control over the process. And this is the area I think that we could all really improve, all of us across the board. There's another question over. Does that answer the question? Yeah, thank you. There's one here.
Yeah, well, my question actually kind of follows from that. We're talking about timing of therapy. I'm wondering about intensity. So is there any guidelines about how often a person should engage in therapy, or you take therapy breaks or therapy recesses, or does it become an approach to life?
Okay, so question is, how do we set up the frequency of appointments, and or is it something we're looking to do on a daily basis, or that sort of thing? I'll let Tessa speak in a second, but from my perspective, the The clients that I work with, when we group sessions together, it's always better. It's kind of like a hockey camp or something, right? It's a similar kind of idea. You can just go places in that setting a lot quicker, a lot easier. And then when we work with people in that way or in that fashion, I'm constantly coaching them and working with them as to how they could bring that into their daily life without needing to spend extra time even. So you could bring awareness to how you do the dishes or how you load the dishwasher. You could pay attention to your pelvis, to your spine, to the feeling that you experience when you're doing certain things. When you're driving your car, when you're turning the wheel, are the ribs involved? There's